My name is Kayla. I am 28 years old, and I want to tell you something that still stops me cold when I think about it. I spent 31 days in a hospital bed fighting to stay alive. 31 days of surgeries, of machines beeping through the night, of staring at the same ceiling for so many hours, I memorized every crack in it. 31 days of wondering if my body would finally give up. And in all of that time, not one single person from my own family walked through that door. Not my mother, not my father, not my sister, not one visit, not 1 hour, not one moment where someone who shared my blood looked me in the eye and said, "I am here." It began on a Tuesday. I remember because Tuesdays were the days I went to the gym, and I never made it there. I collapsed in my kitchen while making coffee. The next thing I clearly remember is a ceiling full of fluorescent lights and a nurse asking me my name with the kind of careful voice people use when they are not sure you are going to be okay. They told me later it was severe internal complications, the kind that do not wait for you to prepare yourself, the kind that require surgery within hours. I called my mother from the ambulance. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. My voice cracked when I told her I was scared, that they were taking me into surgery. Her name is Glenda. She went quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Oh no, that is terrible, sweetheart. Keep me updated." And she ended the call. Keep me updated. Like I was sending her a weather report. Like I was not her daughter lying on a stretcher. Terrified. I called my father next. His name is Roger. He picked up on the third ring. A television was loud in the background. I told him everything. He said, "Geez, okay? Well, let us know how it goes." And before he even hung up properly, I heard him ask someone in the room whether they wanted anything from the kitchen. I did not call my sister after that. Tansy and I had not spoken in 3 weeks, ever since she told me I was too sensitive for asking about the $400 she borrowed and never paid back. I sent her 3 words by text: going into surgery. She left it unread for 6 hours. The surgery is mostly a blur. Cold rooms, masked faces. What I remember with perfect clarity is waking up afterward, my throat raw from the breathing tube, turning toward the door of my room and expecting to see someone. Anyone. The chair beside my bed was empty. It stayed empty for 31 days. My mother sent a few scattered texts. "How are you feeling on day 3? Hope you are getting better on day 9," with a small smiley face, as though I had a common cold rather than multiple surgeries and a body struggling to heal itself. My father sent exactly 2 texts during my entire time in that hospital. The second one asked whether I still had his lawnmower. My sister sent nothing at all, not a single word until day 19, when she texted to ask if I had seen her missing earphone case. I watched other patients from my bed. The elderly man 2 doors down had his grandchildren bring him drawings every single day until his wall looked like a gallery. The woman across the hall had a constant stream of friends arriving with soup and magazines, sitting with her simply so she would not be alone. I had a nurse named Priya who started slipping me extra pudding cups because, as she put it, somebody has got to spoil you a little. A nurse who had known me for 4 days cared more about my comfort than the 3 people who had known me my entire life. I cried more from the loneliness in that hospital than I ever cried from the physical pain of recovery. And that kind of pain does not simply pass. It settles into you. It teaches you, slowly and permanently, exactly where you stand in the lives of the people who are supposed to love you most. I was discharged on a Thursday. Nobody came to pick me up. I booked a ride with shaking hands and went home to an apartment that had not been checked on in over a month. My plants were dead. The mail had piled up into a small mountain by the door. I sat on the floor of my living room that first night, too drained to even make it to the bedroom, and I made myself 3 promises. I promised I would never again confuse family obligation with genuine love. I promised I would never again mistake the same last name for the same heart. And I promised myself that the next time they needed something from me, I would let myself say no. I did not have to wait long. Exactly 31 days after I came home, my mother sent a text. No asking how my recovery was going, no apology for a single one of those empty days. Just this. Hi, sweetheart. Exciting news. Tansy and Vance are getting married in October. We found the most beautiful dress for her, but it is $12,000 and we are a little short. Could you help out? Family helps family. I read it 3 times. Then I laughed. Alone in my apartment, the kind of laugh that is not really laughter at all, just pure disbelief searching for somewhere to go. $12,000 for a dress from the sister who had not sent me one word while I was fighting to stay alive. Let me tell you a little about Tansy, because the full picture matters. She is 2 years younger than me, and she has been the favorite for as long as I can remember, in ways so obvious it shaped everything about how I grew up. I wore her hand-me-downs even though we were not close in size. When she struggled in school, my parents hired tutors. When I struggled, I was told to work harder. Her first car at 17 was new. Mine at 19 was a rusted vehicle from a family friend that I repaired myself with money from my part-time job. I used to tell myself I was imagining it. Children do that. They convince themselves the painful version of the story cannot possibly be true. But 31 days in a hospital with an empty chair beside you removes every last trace of doubt you were still holding on to. I thought about ignoring the message entirely. I thought about writing back everything, every day, every hollow text, every unanswered call. I drafted that message 3 separate times and erased it 3 times. Because I realized they did not deserve my explanation. They did not even deserve my anger. They deserved exactly the amount of effort they had given me. So I opened my banking app and sent my mother $1. In the memo line, I wrote 2 words, "Good luck." Then I put my phone on silent and went to bed and slept more peacefully than I had in months. The next morning, my phone had 11 missed calls from my mother, 6 texts from my father, a man who had managed only 2 texts during my entire hospitalization, but suddenly had no trouble writing full paragraphs. And finally, a message from Tansy, the first real word she had directed at me in over a month. "Are you serious right now?" she wrote. "Do you know how humiliating this is? Mom showed everyone at brunch and now Aunt Raina thinks you hate me. This is supposed to be the happiest time of my life and you are making it about you. Making it about me." I stayed with that phrase for a long time, as though 31 days of surviving alone, as though all that grief and silence and recovery managed by myself was some kind of performance designed to ruin her dress shopping. I did not respond that day. I let the messages stack up the way my mail had stacked up while I was in the hospital. My father eventually called directly, 2 days later. I almost did not answer. Some small, stubborn piece of me still hoping picked up. "Calla," he said, his voice tight in that particular way it gets when he is angry but pretending to be reasonable. "What was that about? Your mother is devastated." "Devastated," I repeated. "Interesting word. She just wants your sister to have a beautiful wedding. Is that so terrible?" And something inside me that had been sealed shut for a month finally broke open. "Dad," I said, and my voice came out steadier than I expected. "I had surgery over a month ago. Did you know I almost did not make it through the second procedure?" Silence. "No," he admitted. "I did not realize it was that serious." "You did not realize because you never asked. None of you did." I was alone in that hospital for 31 days. I watched other patients have people who loved them come every single day. I had a nurse bring me pudding because she felt sorry that nobody else showed up. And now, 1 month after I came home to dead plants and a pile of mail and a recovery I managed completely on my own, the very first thing any of you reach out about is money. $12,000 for a dress. "That is not fair, Calla. We were busy." "Busy," I said, "all 3 of you, for 31 days. He had no answer for that. So I told him the dollar was my way of giving back exactly what they had given me. Then I hung up. It felt less like anger and more like finally setting down something I had been carrying far too long. But the story was not finished. 2 weeks later, I was at my cousin Della's home. Della is one of the only family members who had actually visited me in the hospital twice with homemade soup and a stack of novels because she remembered I liked them. She said something almost casually, "I'm so glad you are okay. We were all so worried when your mom said you did not want visitors." I went completely still. "What?" Della's expression shifted when she realized I did not know what she was talking about. "Your mom told the whole family you specifically asked for privacy," she said, "that having visitors stressed you out and you did not want anyone seeing you while you were unwell. She made it sound like you had asked everyone to stay away. I had never said that. I had never told a single person I did not want visitors. I had told my mother in those early days more than once how desperately I wanted someone there with me. My mother had not simply failed to come. She had built an entire story to explain her absence. She had taken my loneliness and repackaged it as my own choice so that nobody in the family would ask the questions that would have exposed where she actually was. Della showed me the family group chat, the one I had been removed from years ago. I read through messages my mother had sent throughout my hospitalization, casually telling the extended family I was doing fine, resting, wanted space. There was an exchange between her and my aunt about Tansy's wedding planning dated during my second week in the hospital, the week I had developed a fever that frightened even the doctors. My mother wrote that she was swamped with wedding preparations, swamped with dress fittings while I lay alone with a fever, and she had made sure no one else would come either. I sat in my car outside Della's house for nearly 20 minutes just breathing. I had believed their absence was ordinary selfishness, ordinary failure, the kind of imperfect behavior that thoughtless people fall into. But this was something else entirely. This was a deliberate choice, carefully constructed, specifically so that I would carry that abandonment in silence and alone, without anyone else ever knowing the truth of what had actually happened. I decided the dollar was not enough, not for revenge, but because I refused to be the only person holding the truth. I asked Della to add me back to the family group chat briefly. When she did, I posted one thing, a screenshot of my hospital discharge paperwork showing the exact dates of my admission and every surgery, with a single line beneath it. For anyone who was told I did not want visitors, that was not true. I asked for support every single day I was in that hospital. I simply never received it. I think everyone deserves to know that before the wedding celebrations continue. I left the group immediately. I did not need to watch what happened. I just needed the truth to exist somewhere outside my own memory. Della told me later the fallout was considerable. Relatives who had accepted my mother's version of events suddenly had a very different picture. My aunt called my mother directly. My mother tried to claim I had been confused for medication, but discharge paperwork does not get confused. Dates do not change based on what someone finds convenient to remember. Several relatives who had been planning to contribute to the wedding quietly reconsidered. The $12,000 dress became a much smaller budget. The guest list shrank. I did not do any of that to punish Tansy's wedding. I did it because I will not absorb cruelty quietly just to protect someone else's comfortable story. It has been several months now. I have not spoken to my mother, my father, or Tansy since that message. No dramatic confrontation, no apology that explains everything away, just silence. The same silence they gave me for 31 days, except this time it is a silence I chose, and there is a quiet kind of peace in that distinction. What I have instead is Della, who actually shows up. I have someone in my life now who once drove 40 minutes in the rain to bring me soup when I had a regular cold, because he said, "That is simply what you do for someone you care about." I have a small circle of people who understand that showing up is not something you do only when there is a favor to ask or a wedding to plan. I still think about that empty chair beside my hospital bed sometimes, 31 days of it sitting there, untouched. But I do not look back at it with the same grief anymore. I look at it as the moment I finally understood the difference between people who are family because of blood and people who are family because of what they actually do. So I want to ask you something before I go. If the people who were supposed to love you without condition only appeared when they needed something from you, Do you think $1 and 2 words was too much? Or was it exactly what they had earned? If you have ever had to discover the hard way who genuinely shows up for you, then you already know exactly what this story is made of.